Hey, you guys. So I wanted to give you a little nugget today that is dedicated towards happiness and living a happy life, since after all, Elite Wealth and Wellness is all about living the life of your dreams. Now, even if you are able to obtain financial freedom, which of course we have a step-by-step process to do that, but even when you do that, there is still this very, very high chance that you are not going to be happy unless you're already happy with what you have today and you're just in pursuit of financial freedom to help increase your security. So let's jump right in. And today the question is, are you surviving or are you thriving? And I want you to have a takeaway message here today, which is that we do survive in order to thrive, because that's the blessing of being a human being versus any other creature in the universe. So I want you to take a look at this next slide here. So this is a picture of a brain, obviously, and on one side you can see there is a survival portion of the brain, and another side there's a thriving portion of the brain, and down below there's a neutralizing portion of the brain. Now, this is purely for illustration purposes. This is not anatomically correlated correctly, but it's to paint the picture and to give you conceptually something to work off of. So part of our brain is dedicated to survival mode. Think of it as back whenever humans were trying to survive out in the wild, living among saber-tooth tigers, and your radar had to be up 100% of the time, because if it was down, you could get eaten and die. And so that would obviously be a bad thing. So that survival brain, it's triggered by disappointment because our survival brain is reliant on our ability to make good decisions, because when we make a bad decision, we may die. And so when we are disappointed, survival brain clicks on and says, are you about to die? Did you make a decision that could have resulted in you dying and that we need to learn from, so we make a different decision next time? It's always intaking data so that it can make decisions that will keep you alive later. That's survival brain. It activates the sympathetic nervous system, which means it's the thing that makes your heart rate go up, it makes your face get flushed, and you can feel your blood pressure rising, and you could break out into sweat, or you can get chills. This whole mechanism of fight or flight, which just means, again, there's been some form of disappointment, and so your brain has to click on automatically to make sure that your life is not in danger. Now, on the other side of that coin is thriving brain. Thriving brain clicks on anytime you achieve something, because that means you've done something to make a good decision, which will keep you alive longer in general, or if you're receiving or giving gratitude. So whether you're giving to someone and they are being grateful to you and showing that, or whether you have received from someone and you are giving thanks to that person or situation that has happened, both of those trigger thriving brain. And thriving brain activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and relaxation mode. So this is the part of the brain that will help lower blood pressure. It lowers your heart rate. It actually prolongs health. Now, we have enough data and research science to know that if you live with your survival brain on long enough, you'll actually decrease your lifespan and you'll have a lot more health problems in life. So the more survival brain is turned on, the less your quality of life. When you live in thriving mode, the less you have survival brain mode on. So you actually increase your lifespan and you have overall better health. So how do you get from surviving brain to thriving brain? That can be a little bit tricky, because we all know that we've experienced this emotional hijacking, if you will, of whenever we do have some form of disappointment, whether there's some expectation that didn't get met, or you have a desire to get something and you just didn't get it. That can be turned on. And so when survival brain gets turned on, you have to make a conscious recognition of, hey, my survival brain is on. How do I get back to thriving brain? The first thing you have to do is you have to determine, is your life at risk? If it's at risk, you should probably stay in survival mode and get the heck out of Dodge. But if it's truly not at risk, if you've just been emotionally hijacked, it's time to make this conscious effort to switch gears into neutral. You can't go from reverse to forward automatically, right? You have to get into neutral for some instantaneous point. So you're in control of your brain. You recognize that your blood pressure is going up, your heart rate's going up, you're in survival mode, but is it legit? Is your life at risk? And if not, make the conscious decision to switch into neutral. The way you switch into neutral is by taking inventory of the facts. One of the things we do when we're in survival mode is we lose perspective. We get into a little bunny hole of it's life or death, time to make some quick decisions. But when you go into neutral, you have to take inventory of what the facts are. Maybe the facts are actually not demonstrating that your life is at risk, even though you went into survival brain mode. Whenever you make this conscious decision to take inventory of the facts, it allows you to see that there may be another perspective, or there may be a different meaning to what has just happened. When you are able to take those facts in and decide, okay, I'm really mad, but my life is not in danger. Why am I mad? Use the emotions as sensory input so that you can take action to change things for the future. If something made you mad, take inventory of that so that you don't do that or put yourself in that situation next time so that you get angered. Again, you have to focus on what you can control, right? Life is full of circumstances and situations that are out of our control, so we have to focus on what we can control. So focus on the facts, ask questions, see if there's a different perspective that could be had or different meaning that could be assigned to the facts that are all around you right now. And then you make a conscious decision to switch into thriving mode, and that gets you back to your happy state. Because after all, if you stay in that miserable survival brain mode, that misery, fear, anger, disappointment, whatever it is, it's not a good place to be. It's not happy and it's not healthy for you. So control what you can, make sure you understand the facts, make a decision to do something different in the future if you can prevent from getting hijacked, and then choose to go into thriving mode. Think about things that you're grateful for. Think about things that could be related to the situation that you're in, that it's not really as bad as it seems. Or think about the larger perspective in life. I like to say, think of it from a 50,000 foot perspective. Sometimes we get caught in the weeds when bad things happen, but if we back up and take a look at the entire universe and realize how small problems can really be, it really helps in getting into thriving mode. So I'll give you a quick story just to help illustrate the point even further. So whenever I was taking care of a patient in the emergency room once, I remember him, bless his heart, he ended up being the sweetest guy ever, but he was livid when he got to the room where I was going to see him as a patient. He had been waiting in the waiting room for much longer than he wanted to. And he wasn't communicated with well. So he was really angry because he felt like, from his perspective, he was having an emergency, his life was in danger, and there was no one paying any attention to him. So he felt like his life was at risk. He was in full-fledged survival brain by the time he got back to me so that I could see him in the room in the emergency department. Well, I recognized when I walked in how mad he was by the volume of his voice, by the expression on his face, and by my inability to insert any word for the first 5 minutes that I was in the room. So I got an earful, but I recognized he was in full-fledged survival brain mode. So what did I do? I let him tell me everything that he needed to tell me without interrupting him, because I needed to understand what his perspective was. And he needed to understand that I knew what his perspective was. So whenever he told me everything he was upset about, I did what's called reflective listening. And I put into my own words exactly what he had just told me about why he was so mad. And after I told him exactly what he said, but in my own words, he started to calm down, because he felt like I at least heard what he had to say and I at least understood his perspective. And I assured him that if I was in his shoes and I had his perspective and I thought I had an emergency and I was dying and no one was paying attention, I would be just as livid. So he started to calm down. Now, the way I was able to help neutralize the situation was to bring important facts into the situation. The facts were that we had already taken vital signs. We had already done a triage assessment on him. He had already been seen by one provider, and we were making sure by putting him on a monitor that he was not in a life-threatening situation immediately. And so instead of sitting back in a break room having lunch, we were taking care of stroke patients and heart attacks and traumas that were coming in who were in immediate life danger. And so once the facts were conveyed and once he understood my perspective, he then actually apologized for going off on me, which is more than I expected. But he felt bad, because that's what we do as humans. When we really strive to understand someone else's perspective, when we strive to understand what the facts are and see if there's a different way to assign meaning and a different way to interpret what has happened, then we start to understand each other. And that's all we really want as humans, is to be understood and to know that our life is not in danger, and to know that the person in front of us is not putting our lives in danger. And then he was able to express gratitude. And again, it was more than what I ever wanted, but he even thanked me for the work we do in the emergency department in saving lives day in and day out, and said if I was coming in with a heart attack, yes, I would want your attention immediately as well. And thank you for keeping an eye on me, even though I didn't realize that's what you were doing. So again, what did I do? I just recognized he was in survival brain mode. I helped him switch gears into neutral brain mode. And ultimately, he was in thriving brain mode, and he was happy. He was content. I offered him anything he needed as far as a blanket or ice water, anything I could help him with while we waited for the rest of his lab work and everything to come back. And we had a great exchange, and both of us walked away feeling amazing. And that's life happiness. That's your experience of life. You can walk around in survival brain mode, feeling lots of negative emotions, or you can walk around in thriving brain mode and experience lifelong happiness. Before you ever get to financial freedom, I really encourage you to try to master this. I definitely have not mastered this, but I practice it every single day. Once you achieve financial freedom, you will still have these exact same issues, survival brain and versus thriving brain, and if you're able to neutralize it or not. So again, I encourage you, please take this message, go home, practice, and we will work on this together. I hope that you can live well and have a happy day today.